Superman is a 2025 superhero film directed and written by James Gunn. It is the start of the DCU new animated and live-action universe. Called Phase 1's called Gods and Monsters. So he's already started with Creature Commandos, which is like an animated series. I'm waiting for the library to have it, and this will be the first movie. And there's a lot riding on this. You know, it's the first of a brand new cinematic universe. It is a new Superman film. We have not had one since Man of Steel, 2013. So it's been 12 years. There's been a couple of other films with live-action Henry Cavill Superman, but not solo films. And there's been quite a few Superman things in between. You know, there's Lois and Superman and Lois, the 4-season show, which I like, and there's My Adventures with Superman. There's also been lots of comics. I'm a huge Superman fan. You know, he's my favorite superhero, so I've seen most of the live-action, all the live-action stuff. I've seen most television stuff, all the animated stuff, and most of his comics. So a lot of hype with this film. I gotta say, this movie's a little bit underwhelming. This movie is simply good, but not great. This version of Superman is very different from others. I just feel that the movie's pacing is a little bit bad because the movie's only 15 minutes shorter than Man of Steel, but feels like they're doing a lot, and doesn't feel like a lot gets done, to be honest. And also, the action's not really up to snuff. You know, there's some action sequences in this movie that are really good, but the rest just feel kind of just okay. You know, I've seen, you know, most of James Gunn's other films. You know, I've seen his early stuff, his horror stuff. I've seen the Guardians films and the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker. So I know he's capable of like good action sequences, but this movie just seems to be a different beast. So the story is that Superman is in hot water because he's ignited an international incident because he showed up during an invasion of a country called Jarhanpur. Boravia was going to invade them, so he showed up and kind of threw his weight around, and now the government's trying to get involved because he's acting like a specific sort of entity of his own making. He didn't really ask anyone for permission to go to the country or get political backing, so he's kind of like in a new element. And the first scene of this movie is the backstory of metahumans on Earth, and then him losing his first battle. We see the aftermath of him landing and introduce Crypto, the super dog he's babysitting. He gets whooped by the hammer of Boravia yet again, but then the hammer leaves, and Superman has to navigate this sort of murky political landscape. This movie does update some certain themes like cancel culture, scandal culture, you know, spamming, public perception. You know, Superman is attacked in a different way because not just like his reputation for sure too, but also physically too. He's a lot weaker in this movie. He feels nerfed and kind of like can easily be smacked down and beaten down. And the comics have tried to do this too. Action Comics had him be like a younger, more vulnerable Superman that could be knocked out by like a heavy thing. And you know, sometimes Superman the animated series would do the same thing, where he's kind of like obviously weaker than normal, like he's getting taken down by like live wire and electricity and just, you know, certain things without kryptonite. But you know, you have to have balance too, I guess. So this movie takes a long time for him to actually let loose and start, you know, slamming things, defeating things. He spends the whole movie getting kind of smacked around, and he's honestly, they kind of tempered down a lot of his super aspects, which I didn't like. For example, instead of being an intrepid reporter who's like really like good with writing and stuff, he just interviews himself. So it feels kind of lazy in terms of his reporter skills, and he seems to like catch on to things way too late. Like there's a scene where a villain's shooting him with a laser, and he could just hit him with the heat vision, but he doesn't do it for like a solid minute. And I'm like, dude, just hit him with your heat vision. And there's other things that happen too that are kind of like, he's just kind of a little bit slow on the uptake, and he doesn't seem to have any sort of plan at times. He feels kind of dumb. And I didn't like that because they explain that, you know, he's been Superman for about 3 years now, so he's still sort of catching the ropes. He's never lost a fight yet, but he still seems to be kind of corny because he wants to save everything and everyone and inspire hope. And they're like, you know, smacking him around with like robots and armored goons and like science experiments and like stuff like that. In terms of what I really liked Jimmy Olsen. Great performance by Skylar Gisondo. he was really great in the movie. Honestly, he was really funny. He actually had like stuff to do. He didn't do any photography in the movie, but he's more of a, I guess, a reporter in this one, I guess. An assistant of sorts. Perry White doesn't get to do much, whatever. I really love Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific stole the show in like all of his scenes. They gave him the best action sequences in the movie. So it's kind of surprising that the best action sequence of the film happens in the middle of the film, and it doesn't even have Superman in it. Then there's a thrilling escape sequence. I think there should have been more Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl. They are in the movie a little bit, and you can see them at home and stuff, but they rushed finale, using them in the finale and stuff. You get to see them throughout the film too, doing things, but you don't get to see their boss, really. And I really enjoyed The Engineer. The Engineer is a fan favorite of mine because I love the Authority. She's brought in this film as a villainous version. She doesn't get to go full metal though, but she does have nanites infused in her blood. They do it didn't have much of an origin, but they do the portrayal correctly, which I liked. Ultraman's also in the movie. I did not like him. They changed all of his origin and stuff. I did like Nicholas Hoult. He didn't get enough screen time. It's just kind of weird because he's kind of like surrounded by nerds the whole movie, and like sycophants and girlfriends and henchmen and stuff. So he doesn't get any alone time, or like he only gets one scene with Superman, really, and it's just like, kind of wanted more, weird, quirky Lex things, like him, quietly doing arm bicep curls in the, before bed or something, trying to get swole whenever Superman comes by or something. But Krypto the Superdog's fun. I think Superman relies on him a little bit too much physically in the film. I did like the scene where he goes to Smallville and reconnects with his parents for a little bit. Mr. Terrific scene. The rest of the movie's just okay. There's, the visual effects are pretty darn good. It's Weta and ILM. But overall, yeah, the movie is good, not great. As a massive Superman fan, I think James Gunn played a little bit too safe. There's nothing too new that we haven't seen before in this. We do get brighter colors and more of a fantastical world, and more concepts like, robot suits and higher technology and very comic booky stuff, and he gets all of the mythos of Superman correct, like the relationship with Lois. All of that's done right, but I think the movie's action just needed to be taken up to the next level, and also, more personal interactions with each other, because the movie just feels like it's going through a certain number of emotions. It doesn't get to any of those great super heights. There's one sequence that really gets there. It's the fight between him and the Engineer and Ultraman in a stadium. That's probably the most super scene in the film. But then everything before or after, just kind of like, whatever, rushed. Sort of just trying to cram way too much into one storyline. But overall, Superman is a good movie, not a great movie. I give it a 7 out of 10.